Good afternoon. The story takes place in a small Michigan town in 1944. The setting is an old building that once was a bus stop station and postal office. It opens in 1993 with Meghan Michelle Appleby returning after being away for nearly 49 years. She soon discovers memories don't easily disappear over passing time. We hear the voice of Petrice reading a letter to Greta as the lights slowly rise.
In my life, when I thought my heart would explode from loneliness, when I think back to how soft your skin was as I held you before boarding the troop ship, it gives me hope to return to your loving embrace after we've kicked Hitler's behind out of Berlin into the Atlantic Ocean. Give my little girl a kiss for me. There's never a moment your memory doesn't comfort me. Your loving Richard, forever. That's so romantic, Mrs. Appleby. When the war started, I was too young to have a boyfriend, and now all the men are gone. Trust me, having a man is more painful than you think. Consider yourself lucky. A cute girl like you will have the pick of her litter when it ends. I wish I could enlist so I could be there where the men are. I noticed a wrinkle under my left eye this morning, and I'll look like 30 when the war's over. Be patient. You'll be on a date before your chin begins to sag. I hope you're right, Mrs. Appleby. Everything worthy comes in God's good time.
Maggie and Jason run from the back room. Jason is wearing boxing shorts and a white t-shirt, lifting his knees high in the air as he runs standing in place.
What on earth are you and Jason doing? We're going to run down by the lake and back. Don't you think it's a little cold to be dressed like that? We have cabin fever and he doesn't want to sweat his clothes up. What's wrong with walking? We'd get cold if we did. I don't want you running on the lake. The ice looks a little thin. And promise me you'll turn back if you start turning blue. Yes, Mom. What are you waiting for, J.D.? We've got some road work to do.
Maggie and Jason run out the front door, just as Zona Goldberg enters carrying a large bag.
Can I help you carry that, Mrs. Goldberg?
No, I can handle it.
Is there anything I can do for you?
He is one of them.
Who are you talking about?
Werner. He's a Nazi. If I'm going to do business in your establishment, I want to be assured of my safety.
Yes, of course, but I'm afraid I don't get the connection of his being a Nazi.
You're also unaware of my daughter. She is a beautiful woman, and her name is Martha Zimmerman. Her husband, Ralph, used to own a butcher's store in Berlin, but they were sent to the Kharkov ghetto in Poland at the beginning of 1940. I haven't received any word from them since.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Goldberg, but this is America. It's different here.
Switch last names with me for a week, and we'll see if it's different or not. Young lady, do I have any mail? Greta fingers through the mail.
Not today, Mrs. Goldberg.
Zona turns to leave.
Mrs. Goldberg, my husband is in Europe and may die freeing your people. I want you to know that, too.
Zona exchanges a quiet stare, turns, and leaves through the front door.
Why is she so mean? She's protecting her own. My papa loves this country. He hates everything Hitler stands for. He's a quiet man with a strong will. Frederick hurt him deeply, but he won't talk about it. I believe this is why he holds me so tight.
The front door opens with Marlene entering.
Good afternoon, Petrice. Do you have anything for me? Not yet. Can you double check, please? Yes, of course. Marlene, I'll be happy to.
She looks through the file.
Mrs. Appleby, would it be all right if I took my lunch break? I finished logging the bus schedule this morning. That would be fine. Going out? Yes, I'm meeting a friend at Logan's Diner. With Nancy? No, it's with another friend of mine. See you soon.
Greta quickly exits.
Any luck? No, nothing has arrived since early this morning. Thank you. I'll come by later in the day. Have a nice day, Petrice.
Marlene begins to exit.
I have fresh coffee if you want some. I'm not really in a hurry to go anywhere. Yes, that sounds nice. Take a sit at the table. I'll be right back in a moment.
Petrice exits while Marlene takes her coat off. Within seconds, she's returning with a tray of coffee and cookies.
I hope I'm not interfering with your business. No, absolutely not. I talked Greta into making these chocolate chip cookies. Tell me what you think of them. They're a little heavy on the chips, but delicious. I thought so too. You know, ever since we've met, I've forgotten to ask you if you have any children. We lost our son 7 years ago. I shouldn't have brought that up. I'm very sorry for your loss. No, it's perfectly all right. I've learned to accept it. He had polio. What was his name? Michael. The doctors encourage us not to blame ourselves. But when your child suffers as he did, it's difficult not to feel responsible somehow. Harold, though, has never recovered. That boy meant everything to him. You're a strong woman. I wouldn't say that. I'm a coward, really. My only strong attribute is being practical. I try my best not to fight against what God has intended. Death frightens me. I wake up at night in a cold sweat, fearing I'll lose my Robert. Every morning when I check the Western Union, I'm holding my breath, hoping I won't see an envelope from the U.S. Army. Every time that front door opens, I stiffen at the thought of seeing 2 soldiers bidding me with ill tidings. How do you cope with it? I choose to believe there's a plan already spelled out for us, a kind acceptance we have to follow. We're all so vulnerable, aren't we?
Maggie and Jason return shivering from the cold.
J.D., go straight to the shower, and after lunch we'll meet by the tree at the railroad tracks.
He shovels into the back room.
I warned you about the cold. This is my daughter, Maggie. I'm Megan. She still thinks I'm her little girl. And you'll always be. This is Mrs. Coolidge. I like your coat. Thank you. Jason looked half frozen. He roughed it out, Mom. He's not a sissy. I hope you know he has chores to finish. I haven't forgotten. Do you think J.D. and I can go to Logan's? I've got enough money for both of us. You know how I feel about wasting money elsewhere when we have perfectly decent food here. Just this once, Mom. I promise not to ask again for a very long time. See what she puts me through? All right, but just this once. But I want you to tell Greta to make sure she's back on time, okay? She's there? Yes, don't forget. Sure, Mom, you're the best. Nice meeting you, Mrs. Coolidge. Wash your ears and get out of the shower, J.D., or you'll be paying the check.
Maggie exits.
You've got a spirited young lady. She's the spitting image of her father. Hitler doesn't know what he's in for when my Robert's invading his shores. Oh, Lord, I love that man. I only hope he's staying away from those Brit girls. I've heard some awful stories about them throwing themselves at our men. I like to believe he's above that sort of thing. War certainly brings out the best and the worst in people. Are you implying good people doing bad things? Yes, in a roundabout way. I'm a realist. Our men belong in an entirely different environment from what we know. They may be forced to do things they never dreamt of doing. I suppose so. I don't want to be naive, but I can only hope he doesn't lose himself over there. When they return, we most likely won't ever hear the truth anyway. My husband's a God-fearing man. He has morals. Why, he'd no more think of doing anything wrong than I would. My Harold is the sweetest, most gentle man I've ever known. Before this war, I couldn't imagine him ever doing those things he described in his letters. He's dropped thousands of bombs on civilian women and children. If he safely comes back to me, I know he'll be changed. The Harold I once knew, he won't ever be coming home again.
Maggie and Jason enter, moving to the front door.
Maggie, don't forget to remind Greta, you hear? I won't, Mom. Jason, keep an eye on her.
Yes, Mrs. Appleby. I'll keep an eye on her.
Let's get going, JD. I better be on my way, too. Thank you for the coffee and cookies. You have a delightful daughter. Thank you. She sure keeps me busy. That's plain to see. I'll wait another day to check in. I hope what we're talking about doesn't cloud your day. I've walked through enough fog already. A little cloud here or there isn't going to ruin my day. Let's talk again soon, all right? Yes, I'd like that.
Petrice closes the front door as Marlene exits. She begins to walk to the counter, but stops and quietly weeps as the lights slowly dim to black.